Sangha. Um, Recently, we had a few days for the cooking course. We were introducing dishes that we were cooking in the monastery. And so uh, the Sangha has requested me to talk about going to the market and buying food, shopping. It's quite special because we are a vegetarian vegan community, and here it both includes vegan and vegetarian. And everyone is curious how the brothers and sisters eat daily, and how do they go shopping for food. And so maybe because I am the one who is quite seasoned in terms of shopping among the Sangha. So I would like to express my gratitude to the community for trusting me. It's quite interesting, but it is also something very practical for the practice life. Even though in going to the Sangha and to the temple, we direct towards the highest practices, the most meaningful practices, the basic of karma and wisdom. But at the same time, the previous generations of practice passed down one meaningful gatha. Sentence. Like, in order to practice, you need food. Meaning, next to or besides the high teachings, the ideals that are very wonderful, we still need to face what is most human, most basic in our practice. And because of that, it, it affects a lot to the fruits of our practice. So we need to know how to use that, to upgrade it, improve it each day and through generations. Then we would have the most benefits from it. With the human's consciousness nowadays and intelligence, we see that clearly. Um, Not only food affects our body and mind, but it is also our safety. It is not just enjoyment or chasing after something to chase after, but it is also a need. How is it to be good? It is a recognition, but also it reaches a higher recognition that it is very necessary. Back in the old days, when we didn't have much understanding of nutrition, it affects the body and mind of the community, then the choosing, the choice, and the recognition is different. But now it is more informed, but also that gives birth to a lot of schools of beliefs. That is why when Sangha asked me to talk about the four kinds of nutriments, so I would like to suggest us to look for our teachers' talks about the four kinds of nutriments. This is the most wonderful thing, the most wonderful source, based on his wisdom and practice. But brothers have requested me to share in a more practical point of view, closest to our daily life, so that we can have something closer to practice and the courage to enter the stream of practice. When when someone participates in the Plum Village practice for a longer term, then most of us are put in what we call the cooking rotations. Elder, younger, same. So with that kind of responsibility, with that kind of role to serve the community, then most likely we're gonna be interacting with food mostly daily. We need to prepare every day because that is the work that is the easiest to do, to to feel what it is to live the monastic life next to the ideals and the wonderful things, but also the uh, mm, rubbing all the mm, and handling certain situations in the day-to-day basis. It helps us to grow a lot. Uh, for someone who's looking after the cooking, then the wife can take care of everything. She can go to the market. She can, if the husband say anything, she can just dismiss him. But in the sangha, we have to respect those who work with us. We need to adjust ourselves to make it appropriate with the whole team. The way of using the tools, the utensils, but also the materials, the ingredients for food. It's a common space, a communal activity. So from the beginning, we need to learn the skill to harmonize everything. It has a very interesting aspect, nourishes us a lot. Many years ago, when I read about a newspaper about the researchers, the scientists, researchers, how healthy is it to live a life? How is it to live a healthy life? Living in a wholesome direction. So there are certain criteria, like the house needs to be close to whole, wholesome food grocery stores, and there are roads that the parents can take their kids to the school away from unwholesome activities and places, and spaces for resting in quietness, in exercise in quietness. And many years later, there was another criteria, another requirement is that you could cook for yourself. That is a those are the conditions for a luxurious life. So I was quite surprised because that criteria we have been practicing for a long time. Usually, after a rains retreat that lasts for 3 months, then we would have about a week or two that the rotation is hold is like not running. So then we do self-service. So we cook for ourselves. We might cook for a smaller group according to our needs and our liking. So then the kitchen becomes more festive. There's so many faces that look interested. Usually just 2 or 3 people in the kitchen. But during the lazy time, that's what we call it, there are maybe 10 people cooking their own dishes. And I observe and I see that there are many ways, styles of cooking. There are those I see that their ways of cooking has been passed down to their mothers, their fathers, their grandparents, or previous generations. All of the styles to cook for a whole community is one thing, but then there's also cooking for just 1 or 2 people with special ingredients. So it's very happy to see. Because when we cook for 30 people or 300 people, it's not easy, even when we have all the ingredients we need. That is because the appetite of each person is different. The taste for each person for each dish is different. It follows us for the whole of our life, and for a monastic is the same. Regardless of how much you have been practicing as a monk or not, that's just following you for the whole time. And some traditions is like that. They if we run after our appetite for food, then it is an obstacle to the practice to reach liberation. It is a kind of attachment. But in reality, that still follows us for the whole of our life. Maybe right now we are quite old in our age, midlife or older, but we still remember how our moms cook for us and the taste of the food she cooked for us. Because it had when we were younger, because it has become something in our consciousness stored. And so to say that we cut it off completely, it's almost impossible. And so when when living in a community, we still need to learn to harmonize, to to harmonize those differences. Back in the days, when the Buddha stepped into the path of practice, he was also influenced by the thinking that food and delicious food is an obstacle to the practice. So he was an ascetic and reaching the highest asceticism. But then he did not find it. He did not find the answer. So he found that the middle way, which is harmonizing everything, then to harmonizes the two extremes. So when he had disciples, sometimes he would say that, oh, this food is good or that dish is good. How attractive it was. And whoever was the attendant of our teacher, Thầy, is the same. Even though Thầy knew about the teaching, he still admired and enjoyed the delicious food, and he didn't reject that. When his attendants cooked something good, he gave compliments. So to us, up to this point, it's the same. And when we look on the table, food that is served that is very good, there are dishes that are according to our appetite, but there are also dishes that we look and we say, it doesn't look so good. Maybe it was put a lot of love and care and effort was put in, but it's just not in accord with our appetite. It's not like a low quality food or it wasn't cooked wholeheartedly. But in reality, we still need to eat it. Yeah, we cannot just starve ourselves and then eat later at the next day. So when in a cooking team and we face these things, when we cook and see the others see the beautiful colors, very fragrant, very tasty, more people would be accepting towards that dish that we make. And maybe they will take a little more with compares to those dishes that are not in accord with our appetite, our taste buds, so then we take less. So sometimes we run out of food. There are some of us who come here every day of mindfulness. Sometimes we have a lot of food, extra food. Sometimes we run out of food. It is because our appetite is different from one another. It is not like the cooking team was not wholehearted. This is something that I observe and I recognize, I realize. Many people think in order to be healthy for our body, then the quality of the food has to be higher, has to be more expensive, or was cooked by a highly trained cook or team. But in the practice, there is understanding and wisdom. Our body is not just limited to this form, but it is also embracing this whole cosmos, this universe, and this country. It's air, it's the river, it's the energy of those around us. If we just care for this body to be better, and other elements of this bigger body is not wholesome, healthy, then sooner or later it will become an illness, meaning our environment that we live in, if it is not nourished in a wholesome way and improve in quality, then it doesn't lead to a good result. So the way that we choose our food would also go in that direction. One time after going shopping, I was unloading the truck full of food. I am a shopper for the brothers, so sometimes there's a full truck full of food. We need to ask for help from other people to put in the storage. So one lay friend asked, "Why don't we buy that kind of food?" They think that we need to buy at a different store for the better quality, and I think yeah, that is true. But I answer that, well, yes, but we also need to protect the environment. When shopping for food, it is also a practice. The way we choose our food also decides the quality of our life. It's not because of the quality of the food, but the way that we choose it. It's also different. And so we think why we buy that kind of vegetable. It's because it was raised it was cultivated in a different way. But then there are certain other vegetables that were stored in plastic containers. Then it's not good for the environment. So in the same way, there's one food that is stored in a paper box, and there's one that is stored in a plastic box. Of course, we choose the one that is better for the environment. So then that lay friend was very sufficed with what I answered, because when we look at taking care of such a huge quantity of food, it also means that we need to put out a lot of trash. And if that whole quantity is stored in plastic containers, plastic bags, then it's not lovely to Mother Earth. And so then there's immediately sympathy and understanding from that lay friend. And also the other things like toothbrushes, if it can change from something plastic to a more biodegradable that can disintegrate and it won't harm Mother Earth, meaning that person has the same mindset, could understand the importance of the fact that food is not just in the form of food, but it is also other things that nourishes. It's not just in this reality. So then at that time, then we can accept the expectations that we set out before. That it has to be like this to be good, be like that to be good, in order to harmonize the other better aspects. In the same way, maybe we have the belief and the thought that that kind of food is not good for our body. We need to expel it. We need to cut it off completely. But then, if it is an ingredient to create appetite that people in the community really love, then why not? So, the job of a shopper is to harmonize all of that. So, being a shopper is one of the more difficult responsibilities to get, especially in a diverse community. like this. Same with the work coordinator. Yeah, we have to harmonize everybody, but we cannot overuse, we cannot abuse our power. Habit is the same. So we need to use our strength and skillfulness. We cannot just give orders. The community doesn't follow in that direction, this community. So it demands learning. And we need to harmonize a lot of things. There are those who want to push it as close to the ideal as possible. And so therefore the opinion about food about from that person is the same. They are willing to sacrifice their own appetite to push the direction in their ideal way of thinking. So sometimes we need to learn to do something like that. But sometimes, no, they practice and practice, but they still want to keep whatever they love or what makes them feel more comfortable. And so each degree has some differences, and it all comes down to inside the kitchen. And the patriarchs, the matriarchs, the teachers in the past said that the kitchen has to be at ease, then the temple would be at ease. That is true. It's kind of like going shopping for so many children. Each child has a different appetite. They don't all have the same appetite. So being good in that role is a great success. So our community is fortunate that from the beginning we were raised in such environment, and so we are reaping really, really good results. When I go shopping for the community, in the beginning, honestly, I had really strong ideas, very powerful ideas, wishes to make it most wonderful. But soon I learned the bitterness of that. We didn't have money, and sometimes a lot of food is just left over because the Sangha didn't like it. Sometimes I didn't buy enough because the Sangha likes it too much. So then sometimes I can't recognize the the preferences of 300 people or 30 people. There are some who are not in the kitchen, but they express through some skillful means to express their preferences over food. It's like, oh, they take that food they don't like, then they just take a half a spoonful. But then when we cook for 300 people, maybe we have like 100 portions extra because it is not in accord with the appetite of that group of people. Yeah. But sometimes we cook a lot and we think, oh, this is more than enough. But then many people, then, because it is so delicious, then hundreds of people combine, then we don't have enough food. Then those who arrive last won't have enough food. So that is why you see that there are some cases that we don't have enough food or we have so much food left over. So people think that, oh, that the shopper has to bear on their shoulders as their responsibility. Left over or not enough, then they have to be responsible. But that is also an interesting thing to learn, and it gives us power to grow after year, to skillfully harmonize all the differences in ideas and opinions to go in the same direction. Then that creates a lot of happiness for the Sangha. The Sangha is also lovely. Not that they're demanding, that is perfect and to be happy, but they also have their own practice in there. So it's not necessarily that we need to reach perfection so that the Sangha can be happy. No. They know how to, in that condition, they can generate good food and most suitable food. And therefore, we can reach a higher, better result. As a shopper, one of the highest requirements is to save money. Because for a monk, ethically, we cannot waste any money. We need to be happy with simplicity and what we have. So we need to spend less than the average to keep the merits sustainable, to keep our humility. And so when we come out and the person who were checking on the receipts, they were complimenting the brothers. Like, oh, you buy really good food, wholesome food, because thousands of people go into that market. They they look at the receipts. And they are so used to, but they still can pick out the differences among the people who go there to shop. And so when we have compliments like that, then we feel happy, because sometimes they're standing at the cashier and they say you buy really luxurious food, and I'm also happy. Why? Because we didn't spend too much food daily. In fact, each person in the monastery has the average of $5 per day for food. So on the bigger view, it's not too much. But at the same time, we still have food that is relatively wholesome and high quality, quite high quality, because the effort put in by many people, because we go together in the same direction to live wholesomely. Of course, it is just like going to the market to shop. We have trash we reproduce. Not that every time we could please everyone's appetite. Sometimes we cook too much, sometimes too little. Too much food left over is not a way of protecting Mother Earth either. It's not too lovely. One bag of vegetables, it needs 200 gallons of water. One bag of beans, it needs 400 to 2,000 gallons of water before they can reach to our dining table. And it can be even more than that, can need even more than that. And if in a meal we cook too much left over, like 10 bags, then that means that 10,000 gallons of water and electricity and gas being wasted. So, to the ethical way of life of monastic, that is not really encouraging or acceptable. But then I soon realized that if we are cooks, then cook comfortably. A little bit too little, then it's okay. It's not a guilt. Sometimes a lot of people who some people in the end of the line, they couldn't get enough food, but so sometimes they feel very frustrated. To us as cooks, we feel it's not very easy to accept. Nobody blames us, but we feel that we are not at ease. So then we also please have compassion for those who cook for us on Sundays. We cannot ask them to cook just the right amount, no more, not too much, yeah, too little. So then it has to harmonize. So then everyone who is in that process to have the imperfection to grow. And we need to spend years to learn from these experiences. And because of that, I have faith from the Sangha and from myself to share and instruct the future shoppers of the Sangha. And during the time of shopping, I see there's a lot of things, a lot of topics to practice with. Money, is is more, but it is also less because it's the money we spend is like accumulation of many donors, but it is also uh, being spent on many people. So in that regard, it is quite in a low quantity that is being spent. So we can't go too far, too expensive, but at the same time, we cannot bring the quality of food down. So then there's so many things to remember, to take care of. And if we don't have interest and excitement and enthusiasm in it, then it will be a burden. But if we treat it as just a position, an opportunity to serve, to practice, just like in any other positions in the sangha, then we see that there is a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of happiness, a lot of encouragement to practice. Next to the practices that others has gone before me, whatever they have done to pass down their experiences to me, and I myself am accumulating experiences, interesting experiences to pass it down to others and to share with those who live in the same monastery to 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 them how we go to this market but not that market. There's so many markets down in the street, down in the town, but we need to go to those that are appropriate for the sangha, not just any one of them that we can just go to. So as a monk, I need to have observation next to consumerism, consuming the products, but I need to observe how and which direction that the community is consuming them. So that just like the cashier or the ones who are checking the receipts at the door, they can recognize the direction of those who go to the markets, how different they are. And the same we treat shopping. If we observe our mind, then maybe we could want to go to that market because we want that kind of food in that market. And that is not appropriate because we need to prioritize the appetite of the sangha, the convenience of cooking of the sangha. It's not to think that, oh, I am shopper, then I buy whatever, and the sangha would have to cook accordingly. It's not like that. That is a that is going in the wrong direction as a shopper. We need to prioritize the sangha more than ourselves. It's not like, oh, I have the power to use whatever money, however, that I want. No. One time, a shopper say to Thay that, oh, I am a shopper by myself, and then I've been saving a lot of money for the sangha. And then Thay said, that is not correct. If you have extra money, then you buy higher quality for the food. You don't use that as your trophy, so that you can be complimented upon, and then the sangha would have to bear the lesson. That lesson I learned up all the way to this day. It is not my situation, but then it is a lesson to put the quality of the sangha as the priority over myself. Of course, it is not perfect. Like I shared, sometimes some people think this is good, some others think that is good. So we have to take that all into consideration when we go shopping. And besides that, I have to be responsible for the one who goes shopping with me. So in the monastery, whenever you go out, we need to have a second body, a second person to protect our practice so that we don't let ourselves loose in terms of habits when we go outside. And everyone here is protected. But outside, then the good conditions for practice is not as good as here. It's not as ideal. And so when we go shopping, if we cannot control our mind, we are not aware of our mind, then we lose ourselves in it. Sometimes we want to talk to this cashier lady more than the other. It's a whole line. We just want to go to that specific cashier. The mind drives us like that. So if we don't have the protection of right mindfulness, then we lose ourselves very easily because the cashier, as a customer service person, they need to be happy and friendly to us. And if we have demands, they can't really say no. So if we are not mindful, then that kind of advantage will drag us away. Sometimes when we buy something, it's just to please the seller, to please the one who is offering the food. The service. Then that is not the right practice in the sangha. If we could see this way of thinking, then when we go shopping, then we know how to protect and practice in a way that is in accord with the teaching. Of course, a successful shopper would need to get catch up with all the demands and the requirements of the sangha, but also we need to practice to stop and to lessen the demands that are too much, or to prioritize less the demands of certain individuals, because each individual in the sangha has the right to demand in the limit of $5 per day for their food, no matter how small. So the shopper would have to face that kind of mindset to make the sangha most happy. Because of the spirit of practice, there are those who want the taste to be preserved, but some wants the food to be least impact on the environment. So many ideas, and not every time that they overlap each other. Next to the quantity, the quality, but there are also different thoughts, different ways of thinking about food. So a shopper, his dream is to have enough ingredients, cooking ingredients for everyone. The storage has to be full, so that the sangha goes in to cook and can choose whatever they want. They have so many options. And in reality, it's actually have to be fresh. And it's very deserving to have those kinds of demands and requirements. And of course, that would actually complicate shopping and more interesting, but also then we need to spend more energy, mind energy on it. But a monk cannot just spend time all day going shopping. That is not appropriate. It's not suitable. Just a few hours each time. You can't go out a whole day for shopping. That is not the way. And especially if we go to shopping with a younger brother, then next to my capacity, I need to take into consideration the capacity of my younger brother and his practice. So now, if he has to go to class in the afternoon, I cannot extend the shopping time for too long. He would need to rest to attend class. So, because of the perfecting of shopping so that the sangha can praise me, but then I would ruin my younger brother's study, then that is not a good shopper either. Maybe we can go to one more or two more stores to buy the ingredients that the Sangha demands for that week. But are we courageous enough to just cut it short and go home directly? Maybe go home, we would need to hear complaints on the Sangha a little bit. But the shopper, the companion that goes shopping with us, then would have his benefits. That is a practice. So it is in our hands, but also it is in the hands of the Sangha. If we just think about our praise, then that is not a practice of selflessness. Maybe we lack a certain spice, certain ingredients that we can't afford to get for the Sangha, but we can buy something similar. Then, if we have the courage to accept and to let go of certain compliments, so that my companion, my younger brother, can be happier, then the happiness of the Sangha can be more, rather than it's just coming from myself. So there are things that are interesting like that when we go shopping for the Sangha. It's not perfect in order to be happy. No, there are certain weaknesses and shortcomings, but then that is creating more wonderful conditions. Then that is also happiness. So, dear community, the cooking, shopping, to enjoy food is the same. Sometimes it's not to be calculated with like firm categories or a certain standard or recognition, because we are a community and we have harmony, acceptance, forgiveness, and giving each other more opportunity. So it is at the same time we need to learn how to trust that the Sangha's capacity is great. It's not just like we need to have all the ingredients that they can cook good food, but they can actually transform and think of creative ways to make the Sangha happy in terms of food. So now, there's so many interesting things, but I can't share everything in a Dhamma talk. So I just like to ask permission to end here. But I just like to share one new aspect that the Sangha would try out this year is happy farm. The brothers are learning how to grow vegetables, just like back in the old days. The patriarchs, the matriarchs, the Zen masters, and all the monks and nuns, they were growing their own food in the temples, because food is very important. Food that we make from A to Z nourishes us from the beginning to the end. And so some temples still keep the tradition of growing rice. And here, the brothers and the sisters are preparing the piece of land. When you go into the gate on the right side, you would see that field is going to be turned into a happy farm to grow vegetables. That's what we call it, happy farm, because it's going to bring a lot of happiness. It is a copy version from a successful version of Plum Village, France. But here, in this new environment, we need to learn more. Because over in France, it's not desert. Here is like a chaparral and the borderline of desert. Around here, we don't have big farms because it is not suitable to grow vegetables in the desert. But the brothers are courageous enough, wanting to do this. And when we have a ceremony to start, we had asked the permission from the land ancestors to grant us the permission to turn that land into the farm, because the ancestors have kept this environment, preserved it for us for a long time. and passing down the appropriate ways of living. So soon enough, some of us will become the land ancestors too on this part of the planet or other parts of the world. So we need to pass on the way of living to the next generations that is not going to destroy the land and affect negatively to the environment in this country. Doesn't matter what age it is we are in, we still have that responsibility ultimately. So, first of all, the brothers would need to remind each other that we would learn ways to produce products, but still respecting the land, not just to earn profits from this land and then leave it be. And it's not like that. The trees that have grown here and born here before us, we need to learn how to respect them. When we cut, we trim, then we would still need to do so. But we have to have the energy of respect for the land, for the living beings that are offering their presence for this land. That is already a manifestation, a form of our land ancestors. We will also become a part of this life, this stream of life. We are allowed to take whatever to nourish ourselves, but at the same time, we need to respect those that will remain and will continue on nicely, wholesomely into the next generations. Whatever we produce, we don't just see it as ours, but we just gotta see it as like a gift of the universe, the earth, the sky, and the energy of those who have put their hands into the contribution. Of course, it is going to be more challenging because this is kind of like a desert environment. This is not ideal for growing vegetables. So when the brothers with courage go in that direction, we are aware that there are gonna be challenges. The yields won't be as much as other places that are more suitable, but it's not because of that that we don't dare to do it. We would, together with others, learn from the experiences of those around us. There are small farms around, and they are trying to. So we are also trying to learn from them to protect, and they too are trying to protect the land and to use non-toxic ways to protect their crops. So we read and we could see that there are so many farms that have tried their best, but they still failed. But there are some farms that are successful. Sometimes I feel that we want to support the farms around here all the time, but then, but then later we found out that they have switched to growing marijuana, and because of course that is more demand. Well, I can't blame them, because they also have their family to feed. So that is there are funny things like that. But it is not because of that that we become discouraged. We have the the bravery to continue and to go in to feel that challenge. And we have faith that we have countless hands to help. Of course, we would accept that success is not just in our hands, but in the hands of countless other people who are helping us long term or short term, or just those who just come to learn to learn from our experience. So I would like to invite everyone. Next this year we have something else to learn, to secure for our next generation, to nourish the greater body, not just the food on the table, not just with what we buy from the market. It is also the energy of our mind, our faith in the things that we could produce, no matter how small it is. So that when we sit on the dining table, we don't have any complex to Mother Earth, to the food that we're just taking from Mother Earth, that we're not giving anything. No, we are giving a lot. So there's a lot of responsibilities in there. So with that, we manifest not just in 100 years, not just in this lifespan, but it is the limitless in there, just like the land ancestors have done. those who have lived here before, they left behind their relics, they left behind their traces, that we could feel their energy. And we can see that in the smiles of those who are on the path with us, with the faithful look in their eyes and their sympathy, their support when they come here, and accepting what we explain, whatever we do here. That is also an influence. It doesn't have to, we don't have to accomplish all the criterias and the expectations, the standards that we want or others want. But in general, the grand picture, it is all a success. And we will see that the happiness is not just the food that we put in our bodies. Sometimes we look over to the one sitting next to us, could choose a very delicious dish, but I had the perception that that is not a good dish, and turned out to be true because it was too spicy for me. But then the sympathy that arises is not just like on paper, or and so in there's a five-manner practice that a monk cannot look over to his sides, to others people's plates, except for his own plate. And so sometimes in the past, it's so struggling when food was scarce, it would invoke unwholesome thoughts when we look over to the persons next to us, what they're eating. So then there has to be the happiness of those who eat with us. So there are things that we have to respect. The standards that were given to us from the previous generation, however, we still need to consider the appropriateness of those things in our lifetime. So now we support each other and hope, and to see if the happy farm would grow and how it would grow from a barren land, and to see how it would give what it would give rise to. We don't have to have much. We just need to sit there and watch our crops sprout and grow. That is also a happiness. Thay said that gardening is one of the most is one of the peaceful ways of living. If he wasn't busy, he would be a gardener. He would do gardening. So in his books, we can see that he loves gardening. He observed a little seedling all the way to its maturity, or a damaged plant that is healing itself. And we see that we have the green trees, we have the insects, we have water. We can see all of that in that plant, in that life, the flow of life is continuously flowing. So please, I'd like to invite everyone to go and enjoy. Maybe right now it's not very clear and it's not taking form yet because we're having meetings and discuss what to do. There would be things that we experiments would have to take down after we put up. It doesn't work out, but then it would be proof that we are on the path to be the ancestors of this land. We are inheriting it, and of course, we will be respected by our descendants on this path. It's not just when we're practicing, when we do sitting meditation, walking meditation, or eating meditation, or giving Dhamma talks, but in all the contributions that is small, that is little, that is simple. In cooking, in when we enjoy food, or when we go shopping. So I'd like to invite all of us to nourish that kind of mindset, to share with our descendants, our children, our grandchildren, those we love. We're not afraid of failure, to embrace the compliments from others, from ourselves, but to accept that the success is the effort of many, not just our own effort, especially during dire time like this when the climate is becoming more and more unpredictable. That is in many generations. But now we can actually repair and slow down that process. So please have faith and share with each other this kind of mindset so that we always have a future, an environment that is beautiful inside and outside. Thank you a lot.